Mike's on Mike is made possible by contributions from listeners like you to the Jacksonville History Center. One city, many stories. Online at jackshistory.org.
Mike's on Mike, a conversation about politics, government, and Jacksonville, with 50-year opinion leaders Mike Hightower, Mike Tolbert, and award-winning broadcaster and longtime political observer, Mike Miller.
Welcome to another episode of Mike's on Mike. I'm Mike Miller, and all three of us are in studio today. This is incredible. We were just figuring out when was the last time the three of us were actually in a studio together, and, well, our memories are so bad, we couldn't remember the last time that happened. But we're glad you're with us, and we want to thank, of course, our sponsor, the Jacksonville History Center, and our friend Dr. Alan Bliss and his fine staff, and most particularly our very generous donors who have kept the lights on and the cameras rolling. Thank you all very, very much. Well, as promised, our guest today is one of our own Mikes, Mr. Hightower, who, as you know, if you've been watching our episodes, recently took a journey that few of us can even imagine that we would take, and many of us urged him not to take, and we continue to do so. Mike Hightower is a highly recognized and seasoned civic and humanitarian leader in Jacksonville, spent almost 2 weeks in Ukraine on a humanitarian mission in the midst of the war. Today, he's going to share some of the stories, the challenges, the human connections that he made during his trip, which ended up being unforgettable and deeply personal as well. And as always, Mr. Tolbert, kick it off.
Well, I would say we're glad to have you home, but I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah.
I'm glad nothing's changed.
Jury is out, guys.
As always, let's begin with the basics. How did this trip come about? Who invited you to go? And how did you prepare for it?
I basically invited myself. Real quick, for the last 2.5 years, the only place that you heard about this war was on a British called Daily Online something. So I've been watching it on a foreign thing. That's number one. And nobody was talking about the war. And I was watching the videos of all that was going on. Then number two, our good friend Bruce Marshall, as you know, has been over there for 30 years doing off and that. Then a good friend of mine, Bert Watson, who is married to a woman who used to be an official at the Ukrainian embassy in Washington. He has been going back for 3 or 4 years, and he and I got to talking about 4 months ago that he was going to go back and he was going to take, and he and his wife were raising money and resources to put together first aid kits for the soldiers on the front line. So when I was at his house and we were doing it, I just off the cuff said, "Can I go?" And the expression was, he looked at me and he said, "Is your wife going to want you to do that?" And I went, "I'll check with her." So I went home and told Sue, and she said, "I don't think you can go because your passport's expired." And I think she really said, made sure it was. And so thank God, I got it together. And so, candidly, to answer your question, Mike, I went over there because of the first aid thing, because, 5-star veterans. He was talking about what was going on with the veterans over there, what they were dealing with. And I was thinking about our guys here at 5-star veteran. And I thought, and it was going to be there was going to be a healthcare seminar, as y'all know, 35 years with Blue Cross. So I sort of put all those together, and that was my rationale for going.
So what were your expectations before you left?
That I would be able to hear about this international healthcare, about doctors who were going over there volunteering to help with the wounded. Number two, I would visit a veterans center. 3, I was intrigued with what Bert said. He wanted to take and do something to help the soldiers. And so I invited myself. And with picking up on what Mike Miller said, I have to just tell you, the reaction of me going was, well, I won't say the vulgarity that you two use, but it was like, what in the devil are you doing? You're going to be 81 years old. You have a bad knee. Do you know there's a war going on? I mean, and those were the nice ones. And I think after hearing that, I just said, well, yeah, I'm going to be 81. And yeah, I got a bad knee. And damn it, I'm going. And I went. The expectation was that when we delivered the healthcare, the first aid kits, and I went to the seminar, and then I thought, well, I'll spend a couple days trying to understand what's going on and visit 2 or 3 of the cities, that I would hop on the plane and come home, and ended up coming home 14 and a half days later, which we'll talk about.
One of the issues, and I must admit, the 3 of us have talked off the air about his trip, obviously, since he got home. So there's a lot of information that we have, but we really want to convey it to the audience so that they'll have a good understanding. Getting on a plane and flying to Kyiv is not like getting on a plane and flying to New York City, even if it weren't nonstop.
No.
Tell us about the plane trip. Tell us what you saw and the challenges that logistics issue played.
It was, if you've flown overseas, it's no different from going from Jacksonville to Washington to some city in Europe. It's all the same. It's long. It's long. But this one was a little longer because I ended up at a small Polish airport, because you cannot fly in Ukraine.
Yep.
To remind everybody, it's the obvious. There's a war going on, so you can't fly in. So I get off the plane. I meet 3 of the doctors that are going to be with me. By the way, 2 of these doctors who do all this incredible volunteer work live in Jacksonville.
Yep.
And one of them is Ukrainian, because he grew up speaking Ukrainian, thank God, because I speak none. So going from the airport in Poland to where we were going to go in Kyiv, getting across the border because of the situation took 12 and a half hours.
And that was by train.
No.
We flew that.
By van.
By van.
We got in a van at the Polish airport, and then from there we went to 2 different border crossings, but they were backed up. And the third one it took us almost 12 and a half hours. So you line up and you wait 1 car at a time. You get to going across the border, you give your passport, and then the Polish security police come in with their dogs. They check your car or your van or whatever you're doing, and then they take your luggage out, and they go through all that. And then once you have passed that, you go 1 car length into Ukraine, and that process starts all over again. And then we drove to Kyiv and got there at 8:00 the next morning.
Wow. What are some of the communities you went to see? Tell us what you saw.
Was in Kyiv, which is the capital. And then we went to Lviv, which is one of the oldest cities. And then I went to 2 small towns, one of them, which I cannot remember, but it was within 30 kilometers of the war front. And that was at the end of that. And we talk about that. And then going from Kyiv to that small town to the war front, which was, I didn't know that was going to happen. And we'll talk about some of the places I saw and the people I met and how I got there. So you kind of drive through the countryside. One, I think first, so everybody kind of understands, most people do not know where Ukraine is. And 2 things. One of the things that I learned, the Russians will talk about Ukraine. It is the country of Ukraine. The Russians feel that Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union, so they will say the area of Ukraine. Told to the people who live there, it's Ukraine, it's our country, we're people. So it's 2 different things. And most people, and I did not know that. That's one of the things when I think where you're going to ask me, was I prepared? I didn't look at a map to find out where Ukraine was. I knew it kind of where it was. So in expectations, was I prepared? Then maybe there was something about being 81. Maybe I shouldn't have taken this trip. But, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And, I guess that works out for you.
Well, the good news is right now you're laughing. You seem happy.
Yeah.
You had to see stuff that shocked you or surprised you.
There's no question. I've already laid the groundwork, as you guys both know. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. I was not prepared for what I was going to see. I was not in the least bit, even having seen the video.
Like
what? Visiting 4 military hospitals and seeing what drone warfare does to the human body. We're not dealing with rifles anymore. or grenades. We're dealing with drones. And when drones hit the ground, they blow up from the ground up. So if you're a soldier or somebody on the lines and that drone hits up, it does that part of your body. So you're looking at things that do things to your body from the waist down or going up this way. And it is god awful. And so going to 4 of the military hospitals, the other thing is I have a very weak stomach. The first time they took me to the first military hospital because the doctors wanted me to see what they were doing. And of course, I didn't know enough to say I didn't want to go. And so they said, well, let me just show you what we're dealing with. And they pulled back a sheet. And I think I was so shocked I didn't have a chance to pass out. And so by the fourth hospital I'd visited, just be disclosure, I only got weak knee twice. And I told them up front, this is not one of my things. But I think when you saw that was one of the things. The other thing that hit me, and I'm still sort of dealing with, was when I went to the Children's Recovery Center. The Children's Recovery Center is something that you probably have heard. The First Lady has already been on the first thing about what happened when the Russians invaded Ukraine 3 years ago. They kidnapped somewhere between 28 and 38,000 Ukrainian children, and then they sent most of those to Russia to be adopted. A lot of those children were not sent. They were left in these villages, depending on how old they were, to be slaves for the occupation of the Russians. And in a lot of cases, unfortunately, they were used as sex slaves. And so there is at least 2 recovery centers in Ukraine where the military and other organizations are recovering these kids, and they're bringing them back to these recovery centers. And so we spent a good part of one day visiting with the children and what they went through. And I think that, and then the third one was going to the 3 military cemeteries. And then following the one day, we went to the military church where most of the soldiers who were killed. They have one church it's in Lviv, which is the cathedral or the church of Peter and Paul. And so any soldier who dies, that's where they go for their funeral. And so the church is dedicated to the fallen that day. So those 3 things, I think, were the things that I think emotionally hit me from that perspective. And then I think the fourth one was, we talked about the drones. We were at the 3rd military hospital we were at. The sirens went off, which meant there was going to be a drone attack. And then there was a different siren. And at that point, the doctor said, basically in a nice way, the tour is over because they will bring, if there's any casualties, they'll bring them here. So we left the hospital, and we went to where the drone was, which was 5 blocks away. So everything was still on fire. Everything was going on. And one of the people that we were with was a member of the Ukrainian parliament who happens to be in the opposition party. She knew everybody, and they took us down to where the cars were on fire. They were still putting out the fire. They were cleaning up the streets. It was like within an hour after the drone attack. So those probably are, from an emotional perspective, if you've seen it up close. And then there were the things of, as Mike Hightower being asked to, and then I think the other person, I'm sorry, is having the one-on-one conversation with a Ukrainian POW who had been captured by the Russians in 2022 and had been a prisoner and had been tortured, and God only knows, which he shared with me through an interpreter. And he had just been part of the POW swap. And he was in the hospital they were going through some tests and things to get him ready to hopefully go back home. And I gave him one of these military coins. Those of you who are military or listening, there's the tradition that you swap military coins. Being chairman of 5-Star here, and then Harrison Conyer from the cities both gave me some coins, and I gave him one just catch for a sec. So the interpreter explained to him the 2 coins I was giving, and he grabbed my hand and wouldn't let go of it. It was one of those moments I won't forget.
I doubt it. I can't imagine why you would.
Yeah, I can't either.
I don't know how you would.
Listen, for more than 2 years, this is the journalism side of me, I guess, coming out. We've been watching this on TV. And the networks have done a pretty good job in trying to bring the war to the American family so that we'll know about it. But just knowing about experiences from the Vietnam era, that what they showed us at home of what was going on in Vietnam was nothing compared to being on the ground and actually seeing it in person. Tell us how different it was from the way you perceived the war going when you were watching the news stories before the trip, and whether or not that truly depicted the conditions that were over there, or if there were other thoughts that you had once you actually saw this in person.
When you get there and you see the buildings, and then you talk to the people about the atrocities that happened when the Russians invaded Kyiv from the main boulevard and from one place that I think would be to the east of it, of how they came in on their tanks and how they massacred people. And that was 2022. So you look at it today, and I think one of the things that we've talked about together is how do they deal with that every day? It is their country. They're going to win this. They're going to survive, and Putin is not going to defeat them. And they have this incredible sense of their country. And if anybody who reads about the history of Ukraine, everything that has happened on the East and the West, everybody has, every major crusade, everybody has come through there. So when you think of what, from the Jewish community, Mike, whether it was World War II, Poland and the Ukraine area is most of where the Jewish people were.
Right.
We know what the Nazis did to them. Then the Russians, after the war, Stalin basically nearly annihilated almost any of the Jews that were left there. So they have been under this assault their whole life, and their resistance and their defiance and their love of country. And I'm jumping ahead here, but what 2 or 3 of the people who told me, women and men, just said, we will fight to the last woman and the oldest child. We will fight to the death. They will not take our country. And so you have this sense of these people. So I don't think that people understand where this coming from, about their sense of worth but their sense of pride. And the other thing I have to share with you that what I wasn't prepared for, that while this defiance and resilience and everything, Lazinski, when he became president, at 9:00 every day, there is an alarm, a sound that goes off. And wherever people are, if they're in a car or in a business or whatever they're doing, they step out of it and they go to the street, and there is a minute of prayer and reflection. And it is in honor of the people who have died. It is a prayer for we will get through it. And it is a prayer for tomorrow will be a better day. Every day, 9:00, whatever people are doing, if they're in a car, in a bus, they will step out into the public, bow their heads for 1 minute, and it's a moment of silence.
You anticipated, obviously, you've seen the script. You anticipated my question about how the Ukrainians are dealing with this. And I'm sitting over here kind of breathless just listening what you're telling us. I'm wondering, Mike, what is your takeaway? One message you can leave with people.
One of our first meetings with our U ambassador to the Ukraine, Miss Julie Davis, who, by the way, when she came out of, when she graduated from Foreign Service School, some 20 years ago, I don't know how she old, the Ukraine was her first post. So we met with her when I got there, she knew more about me and what I have done and who the campaigns I'd worked with, the people I knew. She had an understanding. When I met with the first group of doctors at dinner, who I think some of them are doctors during the day, and I think they do other stuff anyway. I'm not saying they're CIA. They even referred, y'all will think, one of the doctors even referred to a picture of me and Susie Wiles when Rick Scott was inaugurated in governor, and Susie ran Rick Scott's campaign. And there's a picture that was in the Tallahassee Democrat where Susie said, "Meet me," and she's got her sunglasses on. She's leading me to my seat to have that. And there was a picture in the Tallahassee Democrat, and this doctor referenced that.
Okay.
So my say all that is, what was my takeaway? And I'm trying to do this with some humility, but understanding that I was just there for a lot of reasons that don't make a lot of sense, but because they kind of understood who they thought I was or what I had done or all that. I spent almost 50 years doing politics, 54 years doing politics and 40 some odd years at lobbying. I realized that I was, and I don't mean this in a negative way, the people who were talking to me and were taking me to visit different places, it was a subtle way that they were lobbying me. For me, they were giving me information that they were hoping I would do something with. And
you weren't recruited. You volunteered.
I volunteered. But by virtue as I was there, they didn't know that I had just made this decision to invite myself. And what shocked me was in 4 or 5 of these different meetings that I can run through very quickly, the comment was when they would talk to me, I would say, "How many other people have you shared this with?" And they said, either none or maybe 1 or 2.
For the audience, what can we do? What can the people of the United States do? What can the people in our audience do to help this situation? And I'm trying to do this in a non-political way. I'm not,
Well,
no one to blame here, but just where do we go from here?
Yeah, they have been through 3 or 4 presidents. And I'm trying not to be partisan here, so let me try. There are a lot of them are of 2 minds. They really believe that President Trump can help them defeat Putin. They also have been promised by a lot of different people, which I won't go into, that promised them a lot and haven't delivered. That is probably the one thing one of you all are going to ask me, my takeaway. And this is something that it was self-reflecting on me, of people, and the 3 of us, all 3 of us. This is no time to be humble. All 3 of us have done a lot, and we've met a lot of people, and a lot of people ask us for X, Y, and Z. And we know that. When you are in a situation to pick up on what can we do, I found myself having to make sure I was very mindful that anything when I said I will do what I could through an interpreter, I had to make it real clear. I appreciate it. I'm sensitive, but it was be careful what you say, how you say it, because they are hanging by a thread. They think they are going to be overrun. They think they are going to be in a cemetery. They are defiant, but they are scared that they will be the victim of another drone attack. So you have to be very mindful of what you say so you can be empathetic and listen and say, I'm happy to take that information, but not give them the impression that you can do something about that. I can't, I couldn't. So to answer your question, I think that at this point, again, trying not to be political. We all know, I support the president. The president, I believe, whether you like him or not, I think by virtue of his personality, if there is one person that can put these Zelensky and Putin in the room and make them stop the killing. Now, I'm going to just tell you what I know and what I believe in President Trump. He wants the killing to stop. I saw that. And what he wants is these two men to find a common ground. You're both going to have to give up something. I'm not going to get in the middle of that. But he to say, what can we do? The killing's got to stop. And then I think at that point, what can we do as individuals, as a country, as an organization, begin to help them put their life together? But we can't do anything until this damn killing stops. And then we help them put their lives back together.
Well, on that note,
it is on that note.
But I don't want this to be. But I don't want this to be on a negative.
It's not a negative. It's not a negative at all.
But I have just to tell you, you all asked me when I came in here. I have already been invited to come back, and yes, I will. And of course, I can imagine. You know what my family's going to do, and even the two of you, what you're going to say to me. But the next time I go back I'm going to go with a purpose and make sure that I'm there for a reason, and that. But this damn war is going to end, and at that point, I think there will be ways this country can help them. But as I told them, be careful of who offers to come in and help you. A lot of people are going to have something real shiny. Just be careful of the people who want to help you.
Yeah, of course. Very good. Nice job, Mike. Nice job.
I apologize.
I know that was tough. We know that was tough on you. We appreciate you sharing that.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate the listeners.
Now it's time to go have a drink.
Yeah, there you go. I gave up the wrong year to give a drink. But I will tell you, anybody, seriously, who's listening, if they would like to have a cup of coffee, I'm happy to share anything I want.
All right, go on our website, which is mikesonmike.com. Leave us a message, and we'll put you in touch with Mr. Hightower if you'd like to do that.
And to my two mics, thank you for doing this. This was very, what did you thought? It helped me get my thoughts together. It's been a hell of a 2 weeks being home.
I can imagine it is.
But I'm glad I'm here.
And we're glad you're here. And we're glad you're home safe and sound, which is the most important part.
Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
It's your show as much as it is ours, buddy. Next week, our guest is former City Councilman Bill Gulliford. This is going to be interesting. A member of the Jacksonville Aviation Authority now, who's going to be discussing the ongoing controversy that he and the agency has with at least one, if not more, of the city council members. It's going to be an interesting show. Bill Gulliford is always fascinating, no matter what he's talking about, and we're looking forward to having him and you join us for that next week. Once again, our thanks to the Jacksonville History Center and Alan Bliss and his fine staff, and we thank you for joining us each and every week here on Mike's on Mike. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week.
Hi, I'm Scott Westerman, and I produce Mike's on Mike, with a special thank you to listeners like you who support the program through your contributions to the Jacksonville History Center. 2 years ago, Dr. Alan Bliss and his team generously agreed to aggregate gifts from listeners like you to help pay for the production and distribution of Mike's on Mike. When you specify Mike's on Mike with your donation to the History Center, your support makes these programs possible. And you're engaging in a relationship with the premier organization that celebrates the rich history of our hometown. If you enjoy these weekly conversations, consider a contribution to the Jacksonville History Center at jackshistory.org. Say it's for Mike's on Mike. And if you're already a Mike's on Mike supporter, thank you.
Mike's on Mike with Mike Tolbert, Mike Hightower, and Mike Miller can be found on your favorite podcasting platform, Facebook, and YouTube. Visit the website at mikesonmike.com. Join us next time for more conversation with Mike's on Mike.